Welcome back to Gatabud. Today, in part 3 of this series for Making Gil in Final Fantasy XIV, I'm going to share with you a method that is immune to all economic conditions where you can guarantee yourself to make over 1,000,000 gil quickly and easily and mindlessly and not have to worry about getting undercut on the market boards. We are going to just burn all of our guild levs in a very strategic and efficient manner. Now, in case you missed part 1 or part 2, I highly recommend you go check those out. By the end of part 2, I have a method that has resulted in this much gil sitting in my delivery box, mindlessly making collectible tacos and converting that into materia. And you see, this is from a week's worth, and I had 30 million gil before, as you see in the bottom right. So I've almost doubled my Final Fantasy XIV net worth as a casual player who stinks at combat, and I'm now a gillionaire, and I could buy a house if I could win the housing lottery here. Now, compared to what you just saw as far as my returns, this is going to be a fraction of that return, but it is guaranteed money regardless of economic condition. The market is scalding hot right now. This isn't going to be the largest gil return, but if I do this synthesis 100 times, the real prize to me here is I'm running dangerously low on fire crystals. I have just over enough to do this 100 cents, and then I'm completely out. But these quests return crystals as a reward, somewhere in the 30 to 50 range per turn-in. It's a variable number, and it's also variable whether it's water or fire, but I'm willing to bet that I will end this process with more than 1,082 fire crystals, and that is my primary motivator for doing this right now in this hot market and taking the time to take retainers off of the meat for the tacos to get the nopally tender tuna. So I got just enough to do 100 of these. Additionally, I've identified this to be the best one to do because of this right here. Palm sugar is the only crafted requirement to make this juice. And there's a fine detail here. It is a less than level 90 synth. So you can make a macro that has trained eye and groundwork as its only 2 lines. And then you can make 3 of them in 6 seconds. So we can now set this synth up where we instantly have it half done just on that. So I highly recommend taking the time to actually HQ this, because you can burn through the juice so much faster by doing it this way. I am still in my minimalist bare bones set that I showed you in part 2, where I just have control and CP melds with no overmelds because I'm still slinging materia. And this macro is what I have settled on as the way to do this. This macro is exactly 15 lines and does the entire thing. I will have it below in a pinned comment because YouTube descriptions do not allow for me to do the bracket characters on the weight lines. But this is a 40-second macro, so I can sit here and mindlessly press X and then L2 plus X for the next hour and a little bit of change and have 100 juices ready to go. I want to note that my crystal count went up slightly because a retainer venture ended, and I'm literally having to use my miners to just get me fire crystals to stay alive here. So we run the macro. It starts with muscle memory, and then it's going to do some groundworks to get the progress up very quickly. And instead of a third groundwork, I'm going to do just one delicate synthesis. And that is not needing a master or a final appraisal to block from completing the synthesis. So I saved a line there. And then we go into rapidly increasing the quality, ending with Bioregots, and then doing delicate synthesis again, just in case there wasn't enough quality to hit 100%. And like I said, I'm going to mindlessly press X for an hour while I do something else. I can just hold my controller in my hand, do it one-handed, and just get in a little mental clock of press that button, and before I know it, I will have 300 juice. When you start doing your 100 syntheses, don't forget to use a Superior Spirit Bond potion, and make sure that you aren't also crafting with an already 100% Spirit Bond. So, almost wasted an opportunity there. And now, about an hour and a half later of mindlessly pressing X, I have over 300 Mesquite Juice. Let's start turning in and see what my net results are. I have documented the crystal and gill levels so that I can quantify an exact return on this for you. One thing that I love here is because it's level 98, I don't have to go to another tab, and I can quickly speed through this on the turn-in phase. I have indisputable, quantifiable results here from turning in 100 levs. We've got this much in raw cash, a little over 1 million. We had a net gain of 336 fire crystals, which isn't a ton, but I had a net gain of 1,400 water crystals, which is a really big deal because I'm not going to have to touch water crystals with my ventures for quite some time, and I can focus purely on getting more fire. So that is a win in itself. So with the market board price of these crystals, which they do fluctuate a little bit, they're both right at and around 200 generally. This is our total quantifiable gain, 1.4 million gil from just making a bunch of juice mindlessly, and this is immune from all economic conditions. Now, this was a great recipe to spam, but it's not without its set of cons. The most glaring being how botany heavy it is. So it's not a simple thing to automate with this many retainers. And I don't recommend doing it anyways because of how hot the market is and the taco operation at this juncture. But if in normal economic conditions, if you get in a habit of rotating all of those gathering materials, then a standard retainer setup with 2 or 3 botanists is sufficient, where you rotate between the different requirements on a regular basis. And then I would do this once a week because in a fixed 1 week schedule, I believe you get 6 levs per day, so that would be 42 levs a week, almost 50. It's a lot simpler to make 42 of these and get in a habit of doing it. So that's how I would go about this in a standard environment. For now, I'm hopping on good old botanist and just going and knocking all these out, and then living with the fact that I'm not getting Ronique Chuck to get Nopaliter tuna. To soften the blow, I'm only sending 1 hunter out to get the tuna at a time, and I'm slowly building it back up. And then once I cross 100, it's back to full Chuck mode. This is the standard retainer configuration, though, that I have had all the way since Heavensward, and I don't plan on ever changing this for any sort of condition, because the only thing that you can count on playing Final Fantasy XIV for a long time is that things change and you need flexibility. So this configuration for me personally feels ideal. And even Fisher gets some mileage. There's actually a backdoor way to get water crystals from fishing, and that is just sending out a venture for a high volume fish. So at this juncture, the best one to do this for is Mega Piranha. You get 25 at level 78. And I desynthesize 25 for somewhere between 1 and 4 crystals. So on average, 2.5. I'm getting about 60 water crystals per venture, if my loose head math's right. So even fishing has its uses when we're still waiting on the main new recipes that involve the higher level fish that haven't been released yet. That's all I have for you today. This is just a very simple, beginner-friendly method to start making gill. For the time being, I'm probably putting this on pause. I'm not going to even look at this again for 2 weeks because of how hot the market is. Just want to get this out there, and I hope you found this helpful. Part 4 will be on the way, and if you missed part 1 and 2, I highly recommend you check those out. Until next time, my friends.